Previously, playing anything but Astra or Viper was considered a throw in Valorant rank. But since the 4.04 patch where Astra and Viper got nerfed, there's a lot more uncertainty in the air on which controller is the best in the game. In this video, I'm gonna rank all of the controllers for each map by 3 categories. Optimal, meaning it's the best pick for the map. Viable, meaning it might not be the best pick, but it can certainly work out. And not viable, meaning if you pick this agent on any given map, it's a throw. To start off with Ascent, this is the only map in this entire list that doesn't have an optimal pick. And the reason for that is because I think all of the 3 traditional smoke agents are viable on this map. Brimstone is great, especially using his stim beacon to explode out of choke points. Astra is still super useful, and this is arguably her best map considering A main and B main do have those tight choke points, and her gravity well can still be used in those situations. And Omen has some lethal one-ways, plus his recharging smokes, and of course his paranoia that can be super useful when executing a site. Viper is the only agent that doesn't fall under the viable category for Ascent. She's not viable, and there's just way too many lineups that are required to actually get some use out of her on this map. And even with those useful orb and molly lineups, there are just way too many workarounds for Viper on this map. As a lot of you know, there are plenty of maps in Valorant where having 2 controllers can be beneficial to take map control and stop rushes. Bind is one of those maps, and in the optimal category, we have 2 agents, Brimstone and Viper. Even after the nerf, Viper is still extremely useful on this map. She can throw a wall that covers all of B site, including hookah and long, and then use her orb in one of the spots on A, like short, or throw a one-way outside of shower. From a defensive perspective, this allows one agent to cover 3 out of the 4 choke points on the entire map. With that being said, however, Viper is a very difficult agent to play if you're the solo controller on Bind. That's where the double controller meta comes into effect specifically on this map. While Viper almost fills the sentinel role on defense, it's difficult to rely on her wall and orb lineups to block off all of the CT choke points that you need when you're attacking. This is where a traditional smoke agent like Brimstone comes in handy. Of course, Brimstone smokes last longer than any of the other smoke agents like Omen and Astra. So when you take B site and you have Brimstone smokes down, those smokes are going to last longer and prevent the enemy team from retaking the site as fast as they possibly can. Omen, on the other hand, is definitely viable on this map and is perfectly fine whether you're a solo smoke or double controller with Viper and Omen. Omen's paranoia can have a lot of value in stopping a push, especially when you're playing in U-Haul, because that thing can blind all of short A. Astra, on the other hand, was definitely the meta agent when it came to this map prior to the patch. But now that she only has 4 stars, it's really difficult to use all of those stars in a defensive way when you have all of the 4 different entryways when you're attacking across the map. Regarding Breeze, we can keep this one short and simple as not much has changed regarding the meta here. Viper is still the optimal controller for this map, and there is no debate on that, and all 3 of the other smokes really are not viable at all in my opinion. Viper's wall is just too powerful in dividing sites in half, allowing your attacking team to entry out to site. And of course, Viper's orb and molly combo can lock down B site and stop pushes, which allows your team to rotate on such a big map like Breeze. Fracture was very similar to Bind in the fact that a double controller setting with Viper and Astra was super popular prior to the 4.04 patch. And similar to the way that Bind changed after the 4.04 patch, Brimstone has replaced Astra's meta, and Viper is still very viable on this map. So for the optimal category, I have Viper and Brimstone on this map. For the viable category, I actually have Astra here, and while I don't think Astra's viable as the sole controller, I do think she's still viable if she's paired with Viper. That gravity well still exists and can really block those choke points. Last but not least, we have Omen, whose smokes simply don't last long enough in a map with such tight choke points, especially coming from CT, where the defenders can rotate super fast. As we move over to Haven, it's really interesting to see how the meta has changed on this map. Previously, it was an absolute throw if you weren't picking Astra on this map. Universal smokes, 5 stars, and you can suck from anywhere on the map. Now that Astra has 4 stars, it's much more difficult to pick her on this map. Most pro teams have been rocking Omen on this map. The value that you can get from the blind or the paranoia is huge when you're executing a site. And of course, Omen's rechargeable smokes can allow you to take map control when you're playing a slow default heavy round. For all of those reasons, Omen falls into the optimal category. Brimstone, on the other hand, has super small range on his smokes. And while the smokes do last a long time, as we've talked about previously, if you're defending on A site and the attacking team decides to rush C, there's no way that you can help your teammates with a smoke and help to slow down the rush. As far as Viper is concerned, she's never been met on this map, and unfortunately for you Viper mains, I don't see it ever being useful. Now I know there's tons of lineup Larrys with smoke orbs and molly lineups and all this stuff, but unfortunately for the average player, Viper just isn't meta, and we've seen that across all of the pro matches as well. But what about Astra? How come Astra falls into the not viable category? And for me, it comes down to the fact that Astra just doesn't have enough stars. If the attacking team decides to throw a fake toward A and you smoke off short and long and have a third suck ready for them waiting, and then the team decides to throw a fake and they end up coming up C, you essentially have no utility for the rest of the round because your suck is going to be recharging and 2 of your stars are already gone. Because of this, Astra falls into the not viable category on Haven. Icebox has always been one of those Viper only maps, and that was the only controller that you needed. Despite the big nerf to Viper, I still think she's the best controller on this map. Using a Viper wall to play passive and retake on B site is still the meta, despite the changes that have been made to B site on Icebox. However, since the new patch has rolled out in VCT, we have seen a slight meta change in some teams rocking double controller on Icebox. The Guard, who's one of NA's best teams right now, pulled out Omen and Viper on this map and really had some amazing plays with Omen's TP. For that, we're going to put Viper and Omen in the optimal category, Brimstone in the viable category because I do think Brim's smokes are super useful on almost every single map, and Astra once again falls into the not viable category. As we move into our final map, Split, there is one controller here that can do something that every other smoke agent can't, and that's Omen with the one-ways. Omen's one-ways are insanely powerful on this map. You can throw a one-way A main, A heaven, in mid, or in B main, and this makes stopping a push on defense beyond easy. So for the sole reason of one-ways, Omen is the optimal pick on Split. Now, contrary to every other map that we've covered so far, all of the other 3 controller agents, Brimstone, Viper, and Astra, are all viable on this map. Brimstone is really good because of his long smokes, stim beacon to explode out of choke points, and of course his molly is super powerful. Viper is still really strong on this map as well. Lots of orb one-ways, Viper walls to take map control, but I do think that Viper is only viable in a double controller setting. And Astra is actually viable on this map too. There are really tight choke points on Split, especially on a site like B. If you have a gravity wall waiting and you can combine that with a raise nade or a KO molly, it's almost impossible to push through that without baiting out the utility first. So for those reasons, Brimstone, Astra, and Viper all fall into the viable category, and there are no smoke agents that are not viable on this map. What do you guys think about my choices? A lot of my opinions are based around pro play and what I've seen in VCT since this patch has rolled out, but of course it's okay to disagree with me. Leave a comment down below, let me know what you think. If you guys didn't know, I stream on Twitch every single day at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. Go ahead and check me out and drop a follow, and of course turn on post notifications and subscribe if you're not subscribed to the channel already. Enjoy one of these other amazing videos on my channel, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Peace.